Welcome to the Over 40 Alpha Podcast with your host, Funk Roberts.
Today we have a special guest. I'm going to be talking with Paul Proctor. Paul from Australia. Paul, what's going on, my brother? How are you doing, man? How are you?
Hi, how are we?
Good, man. Good. It's so amazing, guys. If you guys can just give like a round of applause, round of applause. Paul's gonna get very personal, very personable. The reason
get personal. I've got my box of Kleenex here if I go to tears. So anyway,
I do too. All right. So first of all, your name, where you're from, and how old are you, Paul?
Yeah, my name's Paul Proctor. I'm from a small country town in New South Wales, Australia, and I'm 54. I'm going to be 55 in July.
Nice, man. Nice. And so how long have you been in this program?
It's been about 16 months. So what happened was I've done the full 12 phases, but in the middle of that I did the October challenge.
Right.
And we'll get into it a bit as we go, but because I've been in pro sport, yeah, I've found that I've had to take some time off to rehab because of old injuries. You know what it's like. Guys have been in pro sport. We have a lot of gristle and old fiber and muscle that won't work properly, and yeah, you crunch and groan. And I like to describe myself as a broken down racehorse. You know, so it's taken a while.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So, what was your life like growing up? You know what I mean? Like, we've lived a long life. But what was your life like growing up?
Yeah, well, look, I was a normal kid, Funk. Like, I had a great family life, and I was very much loved as a child. But I was an overweight kid. I was the fat kid back in the days when fat kids were not the norm, you know. And I went through a lot of bullying in my young life, and I'll be honest with you, I think that scarred me straight away. You know, I was always picked on at school. I was the last picked for the game of soccer. I was last picked for the game of whatever it was. And the reality was that, you know, that had a huge impact on me. And when I say overweight, at the age of 17, I was 104 kilos, which is 230 pounds. Right. So that's where I was at 17. Wow. You know, and that was a pretty big, not only physical load, but it was a big mental load to take, you know.
Yeah.
It all sort of turned though, because at 52, my mother, who was overweight and smoked, at 52, she just dropped dead of a heart attack.
Right.
And my world changed overnight.
Wow. So, you know, you said a couple of things that stood out to me. You said when fat kids weren't the norm. It's so right. Like, back when we were younger, there wasn't as many overweight children. Like you know, maybe in my school, there's maybe like 10 or 11 overweight kids. You know what I mean? Like, because we were so active when we were younger. It's a lot different than now, where it's kind of the flip. That's very yeah. You said that stood out to me. And then the other thing was the scarring from the very begining. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Right.
But it was funny because from the age of about 17, it reflected on me so much that I was always good at sports. That was a funny thing. Being a big guy, I still had, you know, good sporting ability, and that started a journey to start with, Funk. And what happened was in the space of 12 months, I lost 40 kilos.
Wow.
So that's about 90 pounds. So by the time I was 18, I dropped to about 64 kilos. I was very light. And during that time, I was doing lots of sports, but I was doing a lot of cycling. I was doing a lot of running. I was doing, and back in the days when you're young, you know, so to lose weight, it was just simply a matter of eating less, and you just did a heap of exercise and you lost a heap of weight. And that's what I did, you know?
Yeah. And so where's the transition from, you know, you're 18 now, you're losing weight. How did you transition into becoming a professional athlete?
Yeah, well, what happened was, that was really funny too, because what happened was I went away to uni, I finished school, and I went off to university. And it was a lot of good luck because I started to cycle with a shop team, like a local bike shop team.
Yeah.
And I realized very quickly, and I'd ridden in a few amateur races before that, but I realized very quickly that I wasn't too bad on a push bike.
Right.
I was pretty quick. And the guy who ran the team, he was actually a part of. It's a bit of a long story, but he was a part of the Australian Olympic cycling fraternity. He was one of the mechanics, and he had contacts overseas. And when I showed a bit of form, so I was, here I was about 19. So when I showed a bit of form, he actually said, "I've got friends in Belgium. They run a pro team which feeds to the big pro teams in Europe. So we're talking the teams that become the teams that ride the Tour de France." Right. And he said, "Would you like to go overseas, sign a contract, and ride with them for 12 months?" And at 19, I jumped at it. I just thought, wow, here's an opportunity to be a professional sports person. So I did. I jumped on a plane before the days of COVID. I jumped on a plane. I took, I didn't know what I was going to. And honestly, I got there, and the reality of being a professional sports person was, man, it was, this was a country kid who could ride a push bike a bit, and I get dumped into this cauldron of professional cycling. And I don't know, for the European guys here will tell you, overseas in Europe, it's soccer, and after soccer, it's cycling. And I got dumped into that, and it was a very steep learning curve.
Yeah. So culture shock plus like the training probably was nothing that you're used to, right?
I was used to, like, I'd been used to enduring losing weight. I'd been used to exercise. I'd been used to doing lots of training hours. But the reality was, these teams took hundreds of young guys from all around Europe, feeding all these big professional teams. And the reality was, it was 600 Ks of training a week. It was climbing bloody mountains on a bike. It was living on a protein bar for the day, because in cycling, weight is everything. And I got down to 60 kilos. So you're talking about 130 pounds.
Wow.
It was jockey weight. And that's when I actually started it wasn't diagnosed, but that's when I actually started to become bulimic. Food, believe it or not, became the enemy.
Wow.
So I would eat, I would purge, I would throw up, because the notion was, and that's the crazy part about it. You don't realize it with professional cyclists. They will train for 4 or 5 hours a day and eat nothing to keep their weight down. And that was the reality. Plus I was experiencing things for the first time I'd never experienced before. Deep tissue massage. Like, as you know, I've lied on a massage bed crying because the thumbs are going in so deep, That was the first time I experienced an ice bath.
Right.
Where, it was -4 outside, but you're having an ice bath inside. That was the first time I experienced cycling in snow. That was the first time I experienced riding at altitude to, 2,500 feet. That was the first time I experienced performance enhancing drugs.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that, because, when you're training that hard, that much volume, that hard, without eating, how are you recovering along with all that stuff? What do you like? How are you being able to get through all of that stuff?
Well, I didn't, Funk. That was the thing. What happened was, I'd be sitting on a bike, and I'd go out, and you've got to realize, I was a young Aussie guy. I was a kid, still a kid. I'm in a team amongst people who are speaking French and Dutch and German, and there was Italian guys, and so I didn't know the language, and I didn't know my teammates, but I didn't know them. And here they were. I could cycle at their tempo. We'd be cycling 40, 45 kilometers an hour, and I could cycle that for an hour, but I couldn't understand why they could cycle it for 2 hours, 3 hours, and I couldn't understand why all of a sudden I would just stop, but they just kept going, and they wouldn't be sweating.
Yeah.
And I was there only about 6 weeks before, and I don't want to put anyone in it, but I was there only about 6 weeks when it was suggested to me and put to me as a 19-year-old, and I was there in the dark dark dim days. So I was around in the, dare I say it, the Lance Armstrong era. And it was just a done thing. It wasn't, and I must admit, from as an insider looking out, that whole Lance Armstrong doping thing, once you're inside that culture, you realize it was everyone.
Oh, 100%.
And if you weren't on the program, if you weren't in their program, you just weren't in.
Yeah.
So I was there 6 weeks before I was on performance enhancing drugs.
And how did yeah, sorry.
And the drugs of choice, the drugs for professional cyclists at the time, which weren't being tested, was stanozol, which is an anabolic steroid, clenbuterol, which is a thermogenic fat cutter, which is a really interesting performance enhancing drug to talk about, and EPO. They were the three.
Yeah.
And it was given to me by a doctor.
Oh yeah.
It was administered by a doctor.
Yeah, I mean, that personally, that doesn't surprise me at all. Specifically, when you said you're a professional athlete and you're in cycling, or professional athlete, period. Like, I've been in professional sports. I know and met athletes across the board. And you said something. It's like when you're in there and your goal is to be the best, or at least compete alongside, and that's your culture, you're going to do anything. You're going to do anything to stay. To stay competitive. You're a professional athlete, so you want to win money. You're going to make money. Yeah. You want to be the best.
See, I was being paid. I was on a contract like all these other guys, and it doesn't sound like a lot of money now, but it was $24,000 a year at the time. That was a wage of a first year's teacher's salary. That's what it was. So it was good money, and I'll be honest with you, literally the week I had my first anabolic steroid injection, and stanozol is a very light steroid. It's not like the guys in the gym use big oily steroids. It's a very light steroid, so you tend not to get that big bulk because you don't want that as a cyclist. But what stanozol is great at is it's great at stopping injury, so you can keep training. And then EPO, if taking stanozol is like taking Avgas, putting Avgas in a motorbike, taking EPO is like putting rocket fuel in that motorbike. You just don't get tired. It increases the oxygen carrying ability of the blood, and you can just cycle. And you can do it for 1 hour. You can do it for 2 hours. You can do it for 3 hours. Somebody goes, there's a hill, there's Alpe d'Huez. It's 12% at the top. It's going to take 3 hours to climb it. You go, no problems. Right. And that was the thing. And you can ride at 45 kilometers an hour with 200 other guys who are taking the exact same drugs as you, riding at 45 kilometers an hour. Totally. And that's how professional cycling worked.
Yeah. No.
And that was me. And it was a pretty dark era, to be honest with you. And I'll also be honest, I was never, and from that like that pro level I was at, that pro continental level, they only take probably 2% of those guys that actually go on to become members of those teams that cycle in the Tour de France. That they literally scoop the cream off the top. And I was never going to be in that 2%. Right. So, it was crazy. And because Australian cyclists, we weren't really well regarded over there then. So you became cannon fodder for the good guys who were Europeans. So, they would literally just get you on the front and just say, just go until you blow up. So, and you'd be riding in a cycle race with 200 others, and you'd be 150 kilometers, and you'd just go hell for leather for 2 hours or 3 hours. And that was the end of your day. Then you'd go and sit in deep tissue massage and try and sleep and start again. And that was the routine. And again, trying not to eat and trying to eat as little as possible. And there were days when you had to carb load, you had to eat lots of pasta and things like that. But the majority of the time you weren't doing that, And for someone like me, very quickly, it was starting to muck up my metabolism. But it all came to a grinding halt. I was there about 14 months, had a massive accident, which was just nearly took my life. And I came home after that.
What happened? Was it a cycling accident? You mean?
Yeah, it was a cycling accident. I literally missed I can remember it like it was yesterday. I was coming up a hill and I missed missed a turn. It was up. I was down and up a hill and around a corner and over a bridge, and I was catching up because I'd had a flat tire a couple hundred meters before that, and I was riding really well this day, and I thought I can catch up, and I was literally going too quick around a corner. I was doing about 80 kilometers an hour. I missed the bridge, went over the handlebars, and I ended up impaled on a steel picket in the bottom of a riverbed.
Oh my God.
So I broke my nose, I broke my collarbone, I broke both my wrists, I ruptured my spleen. I was punctured in the back, and I still carry the scar to this day. I had skin off me everywhere. Like I said, I'd broken my nose. I was just a mess. I was an absolute mess. And but in that culture, I was airlifted by a helicopter to a hospital. I was put into I can't remember this too well. I was basically put into a coma for a week or so until they worked out what was going on with me because of internal injuries. And 6 weeks later, I was back on a bike training.
Oh.
And 2 months after that, the contract finished, and they were never going to renew it. But my confidence to ride after that was gone. Right. And to this day, I've got a shed full of beautiful push bikes. Yeah. I have a whole garage full of beautiful push bikes that I simply do not ride because my love of the sport died. And it was
Yeah, totally, man. That's you have. I mean, I didn't get injured the way you did, but you have a similar story in that pro case with myself, because when I went to Switzerland, and it's funny because for some stupid reason I took clenbuterol when I was in Switzerland to play volleyball, which is like they're like, oh yeah, take this, this is gonna help you perform longer and better, and so I was using that because when you go away to a professional sports team and you're the import, you're paid the most, and then for me, all the other guys are just like still working, like and it was. Again, I was put into a place where I didn't really know the language at the time. And then these guys have resentments to me because I'm making all this money and they're still, doing the same thing. And the pressure is on me. And so I remember the manager's like, yeah, take this as clenbuterol. It's going to help you to play better. Because we're setting you every ball anyway, so you might as well get this going. So
it's really interesting. Clenbuterol's really interesting, Funk, because It's sold around the world as a bronchial dilator for horses, right. And it is actually thermogenic. So it actually increases your body core temperature. So it helps burn fat.
Yes.
And, so it's brilliant. They found out later that it's also anabolic. Yes. So it also helps build muscle.
Yeah.
But they also found out after that in a couple of research studies that it's highly cancerous.
Totally. Yes. I know.
So and it's funny, like hindsight's a wonderful thing, but once I got back to Australia, that all stopped. But my pro life was over then. I was 21 and my professional sporting life was over. And here I was washed up. And then I just fell into this self-destructive, because what do you do? What do you do when, like, as you know, being a professional athlete is very selfish, and it has to be, and it's all about you, and the razzmatazz and the glamour of it is great.
Totally.
And then when that's taken away from you, you just go, wow, is this as good as it gets? Right. And everything after that's an anticlimax.
Yeah.
And that was me at 21.
Yeah. So let's talk about. So then now your career's over, and now you're in your 20s. What were you doing then, and what happened to your body? That's one. What happened to your body in your 20s?
Oh man, it was funny, because I came back to Australia and I was still young in body, So like a lot of young guys, I healed pretty quick, and but I honestly didn't know what to do with myself. So I became the party boy. I was out drinking. I was in a couple of car accidents. I've got a great pic for you. I don't know if you can see it. That's one of the cars I cleaned up along the way.
What kind of car was that?
Oh, that was a little Mazda sports car I had. So I was in a couple of them. I got cut out of a couple of them along the way.
Right.
And you know what? This is the funniest sporting story I've got, though. I actually thought I've got to do something. So I became I like to call myself Australia's worst triathlete. I decided I was going to become a triathlete.
Okay.
So that went really badly. And this is where my second pro career started, because what happened was I started to I could ride a bike, obviously, and I could swim, but I couldn't run. Right. And I had a couple of friends who were triathletes, and they said, "Why don't you go to an amateur athletics meeting and do some running, and that'll improve your running." So at the age of 23, so this is 2 years later, at age of 23, I went off to an amateur athletics meeting. I lined up in a B grade 100-meter race, and I won it. Wow. And a guy came up to me and said, "Who's your coach?" And I said, "I don't have a coach. I'm a triathlete." and he said, "No, I think you're a sprinter." And I said, "No, I'm a triathlete." So he said, "Well, he said, "I actually coach runners. Why don't you come and join my stable of runners and come and train with me?" So I did. And then I became a professional sprinter for 3 years.
Oh my God. From triathlete, you went totally the opposite.
So this is, you talk about my body, Funk. So I went from weighing 60 kilos, so about 130 pounds, to I had to build a sprinter's physique.
Totally.
So I was in the gym, lifting big weights, doing big heavy squats, and I transformed my body again. And I went to 85 kilos, and I was also 85 kilos. So we're talking. I don't know. 85, about 180 pound, and very muscly, very, very big, bulky muscle.
Yeah.
And no drugs, nothing. So I went from, I've got a picture here. So I went from this, and this was me. Yeah, that was me when I first got back from Europe, and I was about 65 kilos, and I'll be honest, I was still absolutely havocked with bulimia. Like I wasn't eating, my metabolism was stuffed. Right. I was in bad shape. I really was. But then all of a sudden I had to start eating to build this muscle to sprint. And so that was 3 years of doing that professionally. So I went from this paperclip, which is all about cycling,
right,
to this paperclip, which is about running professionally. And that Stall Gift, that article, at the time, the Stall Gift was the richest professional foot race in the world.
Oh, okay.
And in Australia here, professional foot racing, you can bet on it like horse racing. And you can and it's a bit different to amateur athletics because it's actually handicapped. So runners are handicapped, and so I joined that, so here I was.
Wait. Sorry. When you say handicapped, you mean physically handicapped or handicapped?
No.
If you were A, you'd start here. If you were B, okay. Okay.
So all professional foot races are over. Well, they do other distances, but the main distance is 120 meters. Okay. So your runner will start off scratch, so he'll run the full 120 meters. But then you'll have people out at 3 meters, 5 meters, 6 meters, 11 meters.
Yeah.
So I was never the world beater in that either. I was just had a really good work ethic, and I was midfield in that too. But there was 3 years there where, again, I was doing this professional sports career. Right. And again, I was back at it. It was that selfish lifestyle. It was training. It was rehab. It was sitting on bags of ice on a Saturday night. It was going to bed with track pants on, with Denko, like heat rub on my legs, like all that madness. That was my sporting career, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I loved the camaraderie. I didn't mind that all my friends were out partying and drinking and chasing girls while I was watching television, sitting on bags of ice, trying to treat hamstring injuries. But again, by 27, that was all over. Hamstring injuries just stopped me. And it's like Funk. You get to a point where you're spending more time in physio and rehab than you are out on the paddock or out on the track. And that was me. I got to a point where I was so badly injured that I was training injury, I was competing in injury, and it just got to a point where I spend 8 hours a week at the physio. I spend 6 hours a week in massage. I'm getting acupuncture. I'm going to everything. I'm trying to get everything I can, but I was shot. I just couldn't get these things to work. And so at 27, there was my second professional career over. Right. So here I was again. I was lost. I know that's the best way to describe it. I was at 27. I was just lost, and that's when I got on the. That's when I just got on the weight loss hurdy-gurdy. You know what it's like yourself, Funk, when you're not training at that volume, when you're not eating that athlete's diet, when you're not living that lifestyle, and you try to be normal, weight just goes on. So I tried everything. I tried every diet, every shake, the juice diet, every prepackaged diet, you name it. I tried everything, and my weight literally went like this.
Totally.
And that was the next 8 years. And you know what? In that next 8 years, my life was real. I was lost. It was an anticlimax. My whole life was an anticlimax. And I was just like, what next? What do I do? So I had no family, no partner.
Are you working?
Yeah. I had to go back to work. Yeah. I had to go. Yeah. I was working, and and during that time, I got a personal trainer certificate, and I was working in the gym as a personal trainer. Right. I'm a qualified school teacher, so I was school teaching, but I decided fitness was where it was at. Yeah. But you know what? I was
lost.
It was all a facade. Yeah. I was trying to show it on the outside, but I wasn't living it on the inside, and it was as simple as that.
I know exactly where you're coming from, my brother. Yeah. Exactly where you're coming from. And it doesn't shock me that you're lost at 27, because when all you have been doing is professional sports, and like you said, it's selfish. Like you don't have a lot of, out family around all the time. Like I was missing all kinds of family events. Where's Mark? Where's Funk? Where's Mark? He's never around. You miss all of that stuff. So disconnection with your family, disconnection with your, with a lot of friends. And then they're going on with their lives. They're doing their things. They're getting their families or whatever, and then all of a sudden, boom, it stops, and you're like, okay, now what? And then, you go back to work, but I mean, that's just a job. You're just showing up and kind of like going through the motions. At least I was just going through the motions, right? I guess I wanted to be the best at my work, but I mean, that's not my passion. And then even, like you said, even as a personal trainer, you go back and you like it, but you're just kind of, there's still a lot of things inside that are still lost.
And I was so unhappy. And you know what? The reality was, I never trained in a gym. So this is going to sound interesting. I never trained in a gym to look good. I'd always trained in a gym for a reason. I was a professional athlete, so I only did squats because I needed to. I only did leg presses because I needed to. I only did curls or whatever it was. Deadlifts. I only did those because I was training for sport. And the notion of going to a gym to exercise, I didn't want to know about. Right. I did not. I honestly didn't. And you know what? So I'm moving on now. I got to 35. Yeah. So here I was. I got to 35, and I thought, I've done all this other stuff. And again, I was in this self-destructive phase and the roller coaster of weight loss. And that's when I met my partner. I met my partner at 35. She had 2 kids. I had this instant family. I thought it was fantastic, and in that relationship of 15 years, we had 3 daughters, but which were great. They ended up being highlights of my life. But the reality was, Funk, and this is where it gets really dark, is that I didn't realize at the time. I realized now, and I realized, but during that, it was a incredibly emotionally abusive relationship on her part, and I describe it like this: if you have a dog at the back door and you go out to that dog and that dog's standing there wagging its tail, and you go out to that dog every day and tell it it's a bad dog and tell it it's this and it's that and it's no good and it'll never amount to anything and it's this. If you eventually that dog will wander down the backyard and sit it under a back tree and literally waste away. And that's what happened to me. And you know what? I stayed for my family. I'm incredibly paternal. I love my girls dearly, but that relationship absolutely. So this is a guy who'd been a professional athlete, but my self-esteem was destroyed. I was being told I was dirt, and I thought I was dirt.
Right.
And as I said to you in the email I sent you, if you're told often enough that you're shit, you start to believe it. And you know what? And I'll be perfect up front here, and this gives away a bit of a secret. If you want to know how bad it was, the last 5 years of our relationship, I slept on a mattress in our living room floor because I was not allowed to roll over or breathe in bed.
Unbelievable.
And that's how bad it gets. And when that relationship was over, so I was 49. So when that relationship finally finished, I had nothing. I was just a shell, and stayed for the kids. And you know, I look back on that now, and it was funny. It's going to sound crazy, but I thought that's what love was.
Yeah.
I thought that relationship was that. And when I told friends and family what that relationship was actually like, they were like, Paul, that's not love. That's not a relationship. That's emotional abuse. And I didn't realize I was really in it. But the reality was, Funk, at 49, here I was raising 2 kids. I was nearly 50. I was alone, and my self-esteem, it was shattered. And that's when I really started to drink.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, I'd like to say I was not an alcoholic, but I must have been very close because, you know, here I was, I had no confidence. And I'm still bad at it. I don't accept praise very well because of that relationship, but I started to drink, and it's first to come home and I'd drink 2 beers in the afternoon. I would literally come home and close the door after I'd finished work, and I'd drink 2 beers, and then I'd come home and drink 4, and then I started to drink 6, and then I started to drink 8, and then I started to drink 10. And then there was mornings I'd wake up and I would go, there would just be empty beer bottles around the house everywhere.
Yeah.
And when I didn't have the girls, that was my life. And when I had the girls, I would hide it. And you know what? I look back on that. I was, again, I was lost again. I was depressed.
Yeah.
And I had a defining moment. I got to 50, and I thought, and up until then I had like the family SUV,
right.
and I got to 50 and I thought, that's it. I'm going to be on my own forever, because, and I actually told one of my daughters this. She said, why don't you meet someone, Dad, and start a new life? And I actually said to her, I said, I can't, because I'm so damaged. I'm so emotionally shot that I don't have the confidence. I don't have the sense of self-worth to actually meet someone. And so what I did at 50, I sold the family SUV because I was convinced I was not going to meet one, and I bought a 4-seat sports car under the notion that it's only ever going to be myself and my 3 daughters sitting in it. And that was the day I decided I'm just going to be on my own. I'm never going to meet anyone, because I don't have it in me. I can't do it. You know, so this is where I nearly get to you, because I get to 52 and I'm in crisis. I look fine, but I described it in my spotlight that was on the Brotherhood this week. I just felt I'd lost my mojo for life. And again, it was that saying, is this as good? Is this as good as it gets?
Totally.
And I just, yeah, I just, I just thought that is it. I'm done. And my life is washed up. I'm going to end up being an alcoholic. I'm going to end up with, my kids are eventually going to work this out and leave me. I'm just going to end up one of these. And you see them and you hear them. I'm just going to become one of these crazy messes of guys that you see whose life completely falls apart.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of picks here, like
grumpy old man is what we call
it.
Right.
Me, like, and I've seen pictures of you. Like, this is me. This is the guy who's out having the beers and is all fun and jolly and having a great time. And I'm smiling and laughing on the outside, but I'm crying on the inside.
Totally.
And that was me. That was
And I mean, Paul, just like it's like, if from explaining everything, it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, I mean, that 100% would make sense. I mean, that's when someone tells you that over and over and over again, it just becomes a belief like that. There's no, if that happened to me, I would be in the same boat. If Angela was calling me all those things all the time and, I had kids and we were together, I would 100% think that was it, that this is who I am. And then when everything is said and done, and again, you're once alone again, then it's like, now what? Like, what am I going to do? Because you're still battered and bruised internally, because that it's so recent, right? So it's not something like you can just get over. There's no such thing as getting over. We're all humans. We have emotions and we have hearts and we have all of these things that we need to heal. The good thing is, you made the decision to break off, but still.
Well, it took me 2 years. It took me, I was so, or 2.5 years. I was like I said, I was lost and I was drinking and I just went, oh my God. And anyway, you're not going to believe it. I was scrolling through Facebook one day and your $1 try me for 30 days come up and I went, and again, I woke up this morning and I just went, I've lost my mojo for life. What am I going to do? And I always say, I didn't find you, you found me. And I signed up. I did that 30 days and I just went, yep, I'm going to sign on to the program. And that was before I bought a life membership, which I've bought now. Best money I've ever spent. But my why was a really selfish one. And I'm going to tell you and the brothers what it was. My why was to find someone who loved me. That was my why. And that's what I started on. I thought because I knew funk, I thought nobody's going to love me like I am. Nobody's going to love somebody who's physically out of shape and overweight. Nobody's going to love the guy with no confidence. Nobody's going to love the guy who has no sense of self or purpose or self-esteem. Nobody's going to love that. So I had all these other whys, and we all have those whys, for your health and the fact that I'd had a mother who died of heart disease early, and here I was that age. So you go full circle. So here I was now 52, thinking, well, that could be me. I could drop dead tomorrow, and I've got young children. And but my primary why was to find someone who loved me. Right. So I started into the program, and I just look. It was my saving grace. With having children, I never contemplated suicide. Like, I know some people get to that really dark place where they contemplate suicide. I never got to that place, but I understood why people do.
Totally.
So that was also a dark place to be. Right. I got to that point where I went, I understand why people end it. I understand why people go, enough of this. And I was at that point. I never thought for a second I would leave my children in this world with a father who committed suicide, but I understood what the depths that people go to when they start to think about it. And so that's when I had to do something. So through your program, Funk, that's when I started to build confidence again. That's when I started to feel good about myself. That's when I started to eat right. That's when I stopped drinking. So I hardly drink at all now. I hardly drink. I might have a I might have a glass of wine if I go to a function. I might on a hot Australian summer afternoon. I might have a beer occasionally, but I have no alcohol in my house. And when I first started your program, I didn't touch a drink for 8 months.
That's amazing, man. That's
I
incredible.
just stopped. And you know what? I don't miss it one bit. I don't miss it. And I'll tell you something funny. We recycle all our bottles here in Australia.
Yeah.
And and the money we get for the recycling becomes my kids' pocket money.
Right.
And my children said to me, I wish you'd start drinking again, Dad, because we don't have as many beer bottles to recycle.
Right.
And now all our recycling funk are plastic bottles. That is all our recycling now. And my kids are devastated.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And the beautiful part was that, 7 months later, 7 months after starting your program, I met the most amazing woman. And her name's Rebecca.
Okay.
And she absolutely restored my faith in relationships. She's an amazing woman. We have this beautiful relationship that's based on respect and love and understanding and empathy. And I'll let you in on a secret. We did one of your workouts together this afternoon.
That's awesome.
And it was really funny. It was one of your metabolic muscle workouts, and they talk about karma or coincidence. And in that workout, you talk about, because you've got Angela with you in that workout, and you talk about couples that work out together increase the bond. The bond is better when you work out together. And we looked at each other and had a bit of a laugh about that because, so this amazing, wonderful woman comes into my world. I bring her into our world here.
The brotherhood.
And, it's a full circle journey.
Wow. I got goosebumps because that is a full circle journey. The fact that, man, first, I'm so proud of you. Like, I know you don't take praise well, but man, you literally, the hope that this should instill in millions of men around the world, man, it's like this is an incredible journey. Journey's never finished. Like your daughter said, this is a whole new chapter, a whole new life now.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many things you're going to be able to do in the next 40, 50 years that, you look back at those days and like I look back at my professional days or whatever, but like my best days are now, which is amazing. My best days, my best life, like the relationship I have with Angela and with my kids and everything else. And you guys, this is my best life. I'm 53. I can't wait to keep going and doing it on a healthy way with with my partner. And, but you went through a lot, which is like, man, you went through a lot of shit and you're coming out like the phoenix from the ashes. But man, that is literally a hero story, man. Like you're coming out.
I'll tell you something amazing. You talk about your program.
Yeah.
And let's give your program a bit of a plug. Through all that, my metabolism, by the time I got to 50, my metabolism was completely shot. And nothing funk I did to lose weight. And I tried. I started to eat low carb again. I joined a gym and started to do spin classes, which was quite funny because I'd go and sit on a spin bike half an hour before the class started. I'd ride for an hour and then I'd ride for an hour after that. And while everyone else was falling off the bike and they couldn't quite understand it, and I'd sort of say, "Oh, you've done a little bit of this before," but nothing worked, and I wasn't losing weight. And my photo that I use as my starting point, it actually was when I was at my lowest and darkest, and I was exercising and I was trying to lose weight and I couldn't. And once I got onto your Metatest diet, once I started to eat those carbs, once I started to do those balanced plates, once I started to train metabolically doing your workouts, oh my God, that was the game changer. That was it. At my age, that was it. Yeah. And I just went, that's it. I'm in. And that's when I bought my lifetime membership, and I just went, I'm not going back. This is how I am. This is how I'm exercising for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I went out, I bought my dumbbells, I gave up my gym membership, I work out at home, and that's me.
That's amazing, Paul. This is like, dude, like talk about like incredible fortitude. And again, there's still more work to be done. Obviously, you're still, there's probably you still have a little bit more work to be done internally, because I mean, there's a lot of damage, mentally, physical, whatever it is. But the fact that you have Rebecca, who's showing you that, what you were in is not love. It is not, a marriage. It's not a relationship, and that's not normal. So now you're seeing, what you're in now is more normal, right? That's a normal, loving relationship. It's a normal, loving, respectful.
And it's funny. My kids know about you. It's a bit of a standing joke in our house that, where are you going, Dad? I'm off to do Funk Roberts. And then they tease me and they go, well, you don't know Funk Roberts. And I go, well, yes, I do know him. I've spoken to him a couple of times in one way, shape or another, or I've got a comment, and they're just like, no way. And then I showed them, you sent me a video message, and I showed them that, and they were just like, oh my God, you do know him. And so it's a bit of a standing joke. So but and my kids like Leandro Marshall, you see his kids come and my kids come and do a few exercises with me until they go, oh, this is too hard, we're leaving. So it's a bit of a family affair. And I remember saying to you in your birthday post last year, and at that point I was about 6 months in, and I hadn't met Rebecca then. And I said, it's been 6 months since I've let you into my home and my heart. And that's the way it's been, Funk. Like, you came into my home, you were introduced to my children. I tell everybody that I meet about you and your program, and basically anyone who knows me knows Funk Roberts. It's as simple as that. And you run on my television in my home, and that's just the way it is, brother.
Man, brother, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, just being so open, and so like, this is incredible. And I love you, man. I love you so much. And I can't wait to come out to see you, because I work for the UFC, and I work for UFC New Zealand, Australia. So where in Australia do you live? Oh, you live right by Bruce, don't you? Oh, was that me? Did I freeze? No. Paul froze. I'm sure he'll get back on. Yeah, well, that was
Paul is frozen.
Yeah, Uncle Paul's frozen for sure. Uncle Paul, like how you guys call people Uncle. All right, well, you know what? I'm going to remove that. Go here and see if Paul does come back. Well, anyways, if Paul comes back, that would be great. But man, that was awesome, man. That was amazing. This is it's such a great story, and it's such a great, a lot of us probably have similar things, like I know that he's not frozen in the deep thought. A lot of us have had similar things. When he was talking, there was a lot of things in there that I literally was like, oh yeah, I know exactly where you come from. I know exactly what you're saying. I know exactly this. And then knowing that where he is now today, and where he's going to continue to go on our journey in our 50s and 60s and 70s is amazing. And I was just on a podcast, which you guys are going to get to that podcast next Saturday with Rick Olderman. And one of the things he said to me was like, when he thinks about like when he wants to die, and I've said this many times, like he wants to live till he's 100, like, and that means like not 100 in a wheelchair, but 100 as healthy as he can. And when you put that mindset in your head, like I want to live till I'm 100, believe me, you're going to change a lot of ways that your lifestyle is. Like if you have that in your mind, like I want to live to 100, I want to see I want to see my great grandchildren and my son and what he does, and we got Paul back here, so that's great. But when you start to have that in your head, I want to live till 100, like, and again, not 100 like my gangster granny who was in a wheelchair, but 100 like still being able to do things. Man, the way you go about life is going to be a lot different.
Sorry, I dropped out on you.
Yeah, no worries. So as I was saying, thank you so much for being vulnerable and giving us your story. It's very, very, very incredible story.
It's pretty raw, and I don't tell a lot of people about it. I don't make a big deal about it, particularly the cycling part, because that was a very dark era. Yeah. Because you get branded as a drug cheat, and you know what? I look back on that. I don't look at it as being a drug cheat, because I was just doing the same as everybody else. I didn't profit out of it as such. I wasn't winning races doing that. It was just an era where I had to be in it or out of it. Simple as that, But I don't tell too much about it and the emotional abuse, because men are supposed to be stoic. Right. So you're not supposed to talk about emotional abuse, and because there's always this rap that women get abused by men and men build into women and things like that. But in my instance, it was never physical, but there was just this it was just that everyday emotional abuse about never being good enough, you were too fat, you were too thin, you were too this, you weren't good enough for that, you weren't good enough for this, everything wasn't. And that takes its toll, and I don't speak about that too much either. So it's been, it's been a real reflection to share with you all. But hopefully, look, it's, and I don't think of myself as anyone better or worse than anyone else. I just think everybody's life has its peaks and troughs and ups and downs. I just feel that my life has had some really big highs and really big lows. So it's been a real roller coaster. So but getting here, Funk, getting to the over 40 Alpha Brotherhood, that just absolutely it saved me and put me back on course, because I was just a ship that was bobbing around in this ocean, and I didn't know how to ride it. I didn't know what to do. And I was living this life as a male, but I just had no direction, and I just couldn't, and I didn't know how to right myself. I didn't know what to do. And your program gave me not just exercise and nutrition and not even mindset. It just gave me it was almost just that healing power every day. I just had a workout to do. And I had a goal. My goal was to find somebody and to prepare and that's what it gave me. That's exactly what it.
And it happened. Which is incredible, man. Incredible.
And I'm not there. I'm not exactly where I want to be, like physically. But man, oh man, I tell you what, I'm a long way in front of where I was and where I'd been.
It's amazing, man. Paul, thank you so much, buddy. Thank you.
No, absolute pleasure.
Thank you. This has been incredible. Opening up like this. We love you. This is we love you. We appreciate it, because again, it just allows me to think back and just think back to where I am and appreciate what I have too, right? Like you start to appreciate, oh God, I got, go down and give Angela a big hug and kiss and just appreciate the things. This is one of those things where you start to think about, wow, man, like even and if people are in a similar situation in regards to like people who are listening, guys who are listening that are in a situation where you're like, I see no hope, I see no, like, is this it? Is this what life's gonna be? I'm at a dark point. I'm in a valley. Like Paul's story just shows you, like, you just dig yourself out slowly but surely. You put the work in, you grind it, but you had a goal. That goal. And you were saying something how like, my why is a little bit weird. It's not a weird why. Like that why is a huge why, very huge. specifically guys at our age, because a lot of times there is divorce or there's separation, and usually, well, I don't say usually, but that's what happens. Then you're just left with like the kids leave, you know, they go away to college or whatever, and now it's just like your wife leaves. Now what the hell, you know? And then there is that deep little like, is this it? You know, you're out of shape, you got health problems, but your story shows that like, no matter where you are now, man, the light is amazing, and it continues.
Yeah, but I also think, Funk, I was in a place where a lot of guys get to, is that you get comfortable in that relationship. And even though that was an abusive relationship, I was comfortable in it. So I didn't worry about, and I think back to that 15 years I was with that woman, I didn't think much about exercise. I didn't think much about looking after me. I didn't think much about my health. It was about being the family man, the family guy. And you know what? I think I lost myself in that relationship because I was comfortable. And when that ends, it's like, man, how do I pick up these pieces? How do I remember to pick up these pieces?
Right.
And yeah, it's hard. You know, when you're 50 years of age and you're starting again from scratch, literally from scratch.
Yeah.
It was overawing, and I just had no idea. And yeah, just by fate, you came along on a Facebook post, and I just went,
thank God for Facebook.
oh, well, here's something. Because again, I was looking for what's the next fad, what's the next diet, what's the next, and I was just like, oh, I'll give this a go, and then, well, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
20 pounds of weight loss later, 2 pant sizes down, a different aspect or outlook on life, and everything that goes with it, that the brotherhood and you and Angela bring me. It's great. And I will always be here in some way, shape or form, I'm sure, because I just can't recommend it enough. So to any, and I know the OGs that are here and the guys that have been here longer than me will go, yep, we know exactly what you're talking about. But for any of the new guys here, or people who don't who question it to start with, just don't, because it's the best lifestyle you'll ever live.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I created this for us guys who are or were in the struggle, and this is exactly why I created this program specifically for us. So thank you, Paul, for being on here, man.
You're welcome.
You know what, the question I was asking you before you froze was, where do you live in Australia?
Yeah, Australia's such a big place. I'm about 4 hours west of Sydney, in a country town called Mudgee. It's a bit of a wine area town. I'm about 4 hours from Bruce Taylor, who lives down at Wollongong.
Yes, he does.
And we've got together and had coffee and a chat a few times. Bruce Taylor has been my absolute mentor along the way. And whenever I've needed a kick up the backside, Bruce Taylor is the man. He is such a genuine character. He's one of those guys who he lets his actions do the talking. He was the first guy who grabbed me and inspired me. He's the guy along the way, because I got to phase 11 just before Christmas, and I had a bit going on in my personal life, and it had to do with Rebecca, but it was all good stuff. It was about packing up, moving in together, all that stuff.
Okay.
And literally I just went, I can't commit to a phase at the moment. So I just went offline a little bit, and I was just picking a workout here or there. I was still following the nutrition as such. I was probably working out a couple of days a week. Right. So I didn't fall off. I never stopped. I never went away, but I had a month where I just went, I've got too much on. I can't do it all. Oh. And it was Bruce Taylor that said, come on, get back on the bike. Lord. And literally. And And that's when I went, right, I'm going to do a month of carb cycling. I'm going to get this phase 12 done. And I did. And then once I finished phase 12, I started phase 13 straight away. And I'm about 2 or 3 weeks into that. So Bruce Taylor's been an absolute, I don't know what to say. He's been just a brick wall of support.
Totally. That's why he's our captain, man. That's why he's level.
He's a machine.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I call him the Terminator. He's just a machine.
Totally Bruce the Terminator.
I actually call him the Bruce Nader, but he just keeps
Bruce the Terminator. Well, thanks again so much, Paul. We really appreciate you, man. Like, give a little round of applause for the P man.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
You don't realize, like, I appreciate every single brother, like, votes of support, every little thing. I just love all of you. It's just amazing. Like, you know, I'd happily have any of you anytime in my home to a meal. It is, you're right. It's a family, and I just love everyone here.
Love you guys. Love you too, man. Thanks so much, Paul. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming on at this time. And man, it's amazing. Thanks for that story. So that story will go out again probably later on today or definitely tomorrow. If you that's great, man. There's just so much when that happens and you hear something like that, you just got to kind of take a little bit of time to just kind of digest it. And that's amazing. I appreciate you. So we've come to the end. I know, Chad, you've had your hand up. I do have to go, so I will take one question from Chad, and then we do have to go. So Chad, what's up, buddy?
Hey, thanks, Coach. I'll keep it short. I had a couple of questions diet wise. My wife asked me, and I'm like, because Funk said, but Ezekiel bread. I know he wants to keep away from regular bread. Is it the gluten that we're staying away from? What's the reasoning there?
It's the gluten, it's the wheat, it's the processing, it's all the above. All the above.
Okay. So like a good wholesome like multi-grain bread, for instance. Is that no? Stay away from it. Okay.
It's Ezekiel. Ezekiel's for us, it's Ezekiel. For sure.
Now, if I can't get a hold of Ezekiel bread, because sometimes it's hard to find, is a gluten-free option?
Gluten-free, yeah. Gluten-free would be an option. Hold on, let me just. Sprouted bread would be good.
Sprouted.
If you can't find because Ezekiel is just sprouted bread. Definitely gluten-free. Like if you were like, okay, I have no Ezekiel bread here and I have no sprouted bread, then the next best thing would be gluten-free. It's something I wouldn't eat all the time, but yeah, definitely gluten-free because the gluten in there too, it's brutal.
Right. Okay. Next quick question is dairy. Now, I mean, I cut dairy out altogether except for maybe blue cheese occasionally.
Yeah.
And cottage cheese though, super high in protein.
Yeah,
it's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, some old cheese, feta cheese, almond milk. But again, I always say almond milk. If you're going to drink almond milk, make sure you're where you want to be physically. Like if you are trying to lose that belly fat and you're drinking almond milk, then there's going to be a problem there. It's going to be very difficult to lose that belly fat with almond milk. But there are guys here who are where they're at and they enjoy the almond milk once in a while or in their smoothie. That's fine. But if it is something like, okay, I can't lose this belly fat. Sometimes when you're at a point where you're stuck, you have to relook at what you're eating, and then there's things you got to cut out to just really lean it out. So if you're physically, I'm good where I'm at. I love a little almond milk in my coffee or whatever it is. I would just go almond milk. Oh, but you're not. Sorry, we're not asking about almond milk, but I'm making a general statement.
What about skim milk?
No. Definitely not.
Stay away from it.
No,
okay.
Almond. It's all estrogen, prolactin. It's really the prolactin that it increases, and prolactin will turn testosterone into estrogen. So we don't want that to happen. And even almond milk does a little bit too. But if you have to look at all the milks, almond milk would be the least estrogenic, the least to have that result. But it still does. It still does a little bit. So yeah. You
Okay.
want to stay away.
And final question:
okay.
peanut butter. Oh, sorry, I think I lost you there. Are you
No,
there?
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay. Final one is peanut butter versus almond butter.
I would go almond butter all day, every day. Smooth almond butter all day,
Yeah.
every day, or chunky if you like. But yeah, go for the almond butter.
Now,
sure.
Is peanut butter bad? Is it like if I don't have almond butter?
It's mostly processed, right? Like if you go and look at peanut.
Oh no, I'm talking all natural, like just peanuts, like the health food store peanut butter that you get, like not the Skippy or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, peanuts you still want to stay away from, but if you ask me almond butter versus peanut butter, and I'm going almond butter all day, all day long.
And sorry, why we want to stay away from peanuts? Is it just the fat or what?
It's not the I can't remember which fat it is. I think it's saturated fats. I need your help with that, but the type of fat that is in peanuts are not good for us, and also it's high in omega-9s. I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but the type of fats that are in peanuts are different from the type of fats that are in cashews or Brazil nuts or what have you, and which those fats will increase our cholesterol and does a number on our T levels like regular peanuts. That's why it's like you want to go cashews or almonds or Brazil nuts, like those are nuts you want to go with. But when it comes to the butter, like I know companies are now trying to make more healthier type of peanut butter, right? Because I know my wife, she likes peanut butter, so when we go to Organic Garage, she gets a healthy peanut butter for her. I stick with almond butter because I don't want to play with it, like, hey man, I know almond butter is great, so that's what I'm gonna have. I don't the difference between peanut butter and almond butter, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty much the same.
Okay.
So
and just awesome, and just an update. I took your advice and pushed through on phase 13 and love it. It's great. I'm back doing push-ups again. So
yes, love it. Okay, man. Right.
It's healing. So
that's right. Okay, man. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Coach.
Great questions. All right, guys. I'm out. No oat milk, no cashew milk, only almond milk. If you're gonna have it, but Jacobs and Mark, if your goal is to lose that belly fat, then just don't have milk. It's that simple. Not now. Just wait till you get to your goal, and then you can introduce it, because what's going to happen is you're going to see very quickly when you reintroduce foods that you thought were okay, no, I'm doing good with it, and you reintroduce it, you're like, wait a minute, why am I holding a little bit more fat around here, or why am I bloating a little bit, or why this? And you're like, fuck, it's that milk. Maybe I'm lactose intolerant. Maybe I'm, you know what I mean? Like, it's just get to where you want to get to, and then reintroduce those foods. And that's probably your best bet. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. You guys are absolutely amazing. I'm going to get the spotlight off of me. Thank you, Paul. Awesome. And hold on, let me just get to this gallery view. Okay, guys. Yeah. So have a great week. Again, today's the last day to save 25% off Funk Supplements, Funk Fitness. So if you need resistance bands, any supplements, this is it, because the price is going to increase starting next week. So you want to jump on anything that you need right now, or if you think you're going to need, jump on it now. And don't forget to testosterone. Let's get checked. I'll send an email out for that. And everyone have a great week, man. Have an awesome week. I love you guys all. You guys are amazing. And Friday we'll be in the hangout, 9 a.m. every Friday. Facebook, we're hanging out, just whatever. And then we'll be doing an Ask Funk. So if you do have any questions, go into the Facebook group, ask the question, hashtag Ask Funk. Usually your other brothers will answer that question for you. So if there's people answering the question and they have a moderator, listen to them, because they probably know the answer because they've been here for a long time. But I will also answer it as well. But you'll get those quick answers from your fellow brothers. Anyways, I love you guys. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy your Sunday night. Enjoy your Monday. enjoy your day. Have an alpha day, man. Have an alpha day. Get it done.